Hello, here we go again. Let's try to see if I can get through 40 now. As I have been a bit getting behind on things, haven't quite gotten as far as I would like to. But we're getting there. So I keep trying to do new things. I do expect to start doing my reverse engineering of my website soon, which is going to be a whole different set of learning because it's going to be taking something that isn't pre-established and trying to get it going. So that'll be interesting. Close enough. All right. First session this morning, I got through a few things. We've completed almost all the database items. There's a couple more database. Well, okay, it's not all the database items. It's the database section of the whole thing. We've gotten through add, remove, delete, authorize, authorizing, protecting pages, using the auth from Supabase, and we're now going to be getting into a couple of different things. I think there's a little bit more left for the database. We've got building, oh, okay, and then RLS policies, which I think is another level of security. So building the application is going to be interesting because this is actually where we actually get to turn it into an application that's fully functional, which will be a good state. Right now we have been running it via dev. Before it wasn't working because the last time I tried to do a build was probably 20 or so of these lessons ago, maybe 15. And it didn't work because I was using JSON server and I had the Supabase going. I had a number of things all trying to run that weren't all fully functional because we were slowly converting from JSON server to using Supabase, and some things were working, some things weren't. And we've pretty much converted it now. It's fully functional under the Supabase database, I think, as we've done everything up through deleting tickets. Now we just got to build the app. As you can see, it's a 5-minute session followed by another 6-minute session. RLS policies, I believe, I don't know what that stands for. I suppose he'll say. But I think ultimately it's putting security on the database that is actually at like it's row level security. That's what RLS is. Ooh, that's sweet. Row level security and policies will allow you to have security on your database that protects it at the base. Thus, I made some pretty bad analogies of it earlier, but ultimately it's about keeping things protected, even if people get through your website code to the database somehow, they can't edit and delete unless they've got the right permissions for it, and that's the premise of that.
Authentication and a database, and the application's all working pretty well in dev mode. So next up I want to try building the application to see what it would be like in production and to make sure everything works as it should. But before we do that, I want to make one quick addition to the root layout file. And that's to add a quick export at the top of the file, and it's going to be a constant called dynamic, and the value of that is going to be force-dynamic. And by doing this, we're telling NextJS that when you build this site now, we want the rendering to be dynamic and not static, because if it tries to statically build this now, it won't work because we're using dynamic functions like cookies or authentication all over the place. And you can't really statically build pages that include those dynamic functions that rely on runtime information. So we're saying force dynamic here so that NextJS doesn't even try to statically build anything.
Okay, so really what he's talking about here is he wants to put in a line at the top of your code. We're not going to let NextJS do its static pages bit. This is because we got stuff coming from the database and we want everything to be able to render dynamically. I think what this kind of does is if you have just a website that thing, because static pages are going to be quick, right? It can memorize them. It basically caches them all, and it just loads them up. There's nothing for it to do. So it's going to keep them so they can be quick, ready on the draw, and just pop right up as needed. Force dynamic is going to take that away, allowing the system to always make sure you get the freshest data, and your auth gets to be put in place.
Whenever NextJS sees us use those dynamic functions, it shouldn't really try to build it statically, but I think it still does try, and we get an error at build time. But by adding this one line, we don't get that error. All right. So now we can go ahead and try to build this site by opening up a terminal, cancel out of the current process first of all, the dev server, and then.
All right. So we're going to go here. We're going to go ahead and kill my code, and then we're going to yes, and then we're going to try to do a build. Now I'm not sure if he's actually building.
We can type npm run build and hit enter to build the application. So then before we try this out in a browser, I want to quickly show you the output in the terminal, because it shows you how Next is being built in terms of what's statically being generated and what page.
Now it's building all the code, but keep in mind my code is different from his code because I had to do a lot of stuff special to using SSRs that are using the helpers build packages that are created. So my concern was that it would not build, and as you can see, we still have a little bit of errors going. We compiled okay, but it says linting. I don't know what linting is. Whatever the heck linting is. Let's see, linting and checking validity of types. ESLint failed to load config next core web vitals to extent from referenced from GitHub. NextJS Masterclass ESLintRC.json. I don't know what that is, but otherwise, linting and checking validity of types, collecting page data, general static pages, collecting build traces, finalize optimization. It looks like it may have worked. It just didn't load something it didn't want. I don't know how that affects me.
It's going to be built at runtime, etc. And we have actually seen this in a previous lecture earlier on in the course, but we get this little key here to say what's what. So the lambda is for anything that's dynamic and renders at runtime on the server, and the little circle is for pages that have been statically generated at build time. Now, our site, pretty much everything now is going to be rendered at runtime on the server because we're using authentication and cookies.
So he was pointing out that on here it actually tells you what's going on. This is your this is basically a code that tells you when it pre-rendered everything, it checked to see what was going to be. So everything that's F is server rendered on demand. So this is basically means dynamic, and then static is everything with this little circle. My not found page. That's it. My not found page is the only thing that's been set up as pre-rendered. Interesting enough, I don't think the same is for him.
All the pages. But if you made something like a static blog where you didn't need all of that, then for a lot of the content it would probably be static. But for our build, the only thing static is the default 404 page down here. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you this before we try this out in a browser. But to run the build application in the browser, we can now say npm start. That's going to spin up a local server to view it on port 3000. So make sure you stop the dev server first of all before you do this, and then we can view it in the browser. Alright then, so everything looks like it's working so far. I'm going to go to view tickets, and one thing you're going to notice when you build the application is that this is much quicker now. So the dev server for NextJS is notoriously a little bit slow, but once we've built the application, everything is really, really quick. So this is working. We're grabbing all of the tickets.
So now we just get a kind of look to see how quickly it is. It does run a little faster. It's supposed to run faster, obviously, when you're doing a build scenario. One of the things I do notice that when I go to tickets, there's not a create. He doesn't. We have a create. We can create tickets, but he never gave us a path to create tickets. There's not like a button here that says add a ticket. Even on his, like see his website, nothing. He doesn't have any option on here to create or add a ticket, which I find kind of.
I'm going to click on one of these to make sure it works as well.
So you got delete tickets.
Let me go back and try another one. This one.
Add tickets.
Yeah. Okay, so the delete button doesn't show up for this one. That's because it's a different author. I'm going to go try deleting one of these things. In fact, let's add one first of all, and I still need to make that button. So let's go to /tickets/create.
Ha! He just said I still need to add a button for that.
The next lesson, or maybe the next chapter. Let's say the title is going to be make a new site planner. And I'm pasting a load of Mario Ipsum.
We need
priority,
a add
see that now,
button
site planner.
for
Alright,
tickets.
Okay, let's try deleting that, see if it works.
But we first
And try and go to the dashboard.
will delete this.
So authentication works. I'm going to try logging back in. Yoshi at netninja.dev. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, and submit. And yeah, everything looks as though it's working. You know what? I think in this lesson, I'm just going to go and create that button because it's really bugging me. I want a button here that goes to the create page.
He's going to add. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add a button for the create page.
Alright,
That's
so just
bugging him.
quickly, I'm on the tickets page right here, and where we have this nav bar, underneath this div right here where the title is, I just want to paste in this.
So we're going to go to the tickets create. So we're going to go right up here to tickets. We're going to go to the create tickets page, page.jsx create. Oh, he's just on tickets. Wait. Create. Oh. It's under tickets. Alright. Oh, so we're just copying this. Alright, so he's going to go to, we're under tickets, we're on the page. He is just taking his tickets code,
Link. And the
tickets create. Oh, he's putting tickets.create under link.
href is /tickets/create. Class name ML Auto, margin left up.
Under div here, I think. Currently open tickets. He's just going to go link. href equals tickets/create. And, oh, you know what? I should have done it that way. I always like using the little shortcuts, but I didn't do that. Because I didn't. ML-auto. And then he's putting in a button. Button dash primary. And that's called new ticket.
Auto, meaning this is going to go way over to the right because these are flex items. And then we have a button with a class name of BTM primary, which means it's going to be purple. It says new ticket. So when we click on that, it's going to go to the create page. However, we do need to import that link component. So let's do that right up here. I'm going to paste it in, import link from next/link. Now, if we save this, we do need to build the application.
I'm missing an import, so we're going to say import. And it's going to be link from, what was it? Link from next/link, I think it said. Next/link. But I kind of might have missed that.
Application again, so make sure you cancel out of the current process. And I'm going to say input/link primary, which means it's going to be purple. It says new ticket. So when we click on that, it's going to go to the create page. However, we do need to import that link component. So let's do that right up here. I'm going to paste it in, import link.
Link from next link. Yeah, I did it. But this is capital, and this is capital as well. And I got to learn to spell import. But beyond those two things, I have it in here. Besides the terrible spelling and typing, we should have a valid page here. Let's see.
From next/link. Now, if we save this, we do need to build the application again. So make sure you cancel out of the current.
Oh, that's right. Since we're doing this live, We can't use build because it doesn't work. You have to build it again.
Process, and I'm going to say npm run build, and then once it's built you can run npm start again, and then we should see that change in the browser.
Uh-oh.
Alright, so let's...
Next, expect the string literal. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot to do a string, because that's the thing. There we go. Let's try that again. It does have decent, I've always been a Visual Studio person. And you can do a lot of this stuff in Visual Studio, mind you. It's a little bit more work to get it set up, I found. But VS Code, you know, it works pretty good. It's got pretty decent interfaces and stuff. I don't know what tools and stuff you can use in Visual Studio. I've always liked Visual Studio, but it might just be too much overhead for what this does. And having these bits and parts down here does make it easier. A Webpack error, now what? Import trace for request module. It's not net, wait. No, that's not. Did I not save? Ah, let's save. And we'll try it again. Kind of thought it would have saved automatically doing that. I don't know, it feels to me like when you build a project, it should automatically save the project. I mean, call me silly. It's like, you probably just want to build stuff you haven't done any work on, or haven't done the latest work on. If you haven't saved, you probably don't want it. I don't know. All right, let's see what this does. Wait, did it not work? Oh, I have to run it. Dang it. npm run start. Or do I even have to run start? Is it just start or run start? Ah, that worked. So it must be what I say it is. Nope. Nope. Error. Element type invalid. Expected string, a class function for composite, but got undefined. Huh? Client-side exception has occurred. See the browser console for more information. Minified React error. For the full message, I don't know what that is. Minified reactor? What the heck is a minified reactor? I didn't get any errors that I'm aware of in the compilation. Nope, we are definitely getting an error. My tickets are failing.
Quickly preview this then. View tickets.
Nope, his works. I had to check to see if his works, because sometimes he does something that breaks and he goes and fixes it. But obviously that's not what happened to me. I definitely have a break here somewhere. It doesn't like my next link. Import from next link. Is it spelled wrong? Which don't put it past. 37. And we are on tickets. Create tickets layout. Yep, capital. I was wondering if I did capital. I don't know why. I don't know why I was silly enough to think that was the key. I think more often than not, my errors are case sensitivity. I've had a lot of errors caused by case sensitivity. And you can't really, you have to rebuild it each time unless you're using dev.
And awesome, we can see that new ticket button right here now. So we can click on that to go to the create page rather than keep on typing it up here.
All right, so we're on to 38 while my thing builds
Right
here.
then, so now we've built the application and we know everything works. I just want to quickly do one more thing in this chapter, and that's to implement some security around.
So we're going to go to the Supabase environment now. And once we do that, he's going to show us row level security in Supabase. That's all the kind of thing that I think most people could kind of figure out on their own, but let's do it anyway. I mean, if you, well, I say that it's probably presumptuous of me because fact is, if I've worked with databases a few times, I would imagine I could dig through that figure. Oh look, it's still doing it. Still does not like something. I am fully saved this time. Application or client-side exception has occurred. See the browser console. What is the problem here? Minute failed React error. What is that? Failed React. We avoid sending down full error messages in order to reduce the number of bytes sent over the wire. The full text of the error you just encountered is element type is invalid. Received a promise that resolves to undefined. A lazy element type must resolve to a class or function. I am logged in, as far as I can tell. It's not telling me. Wow. Element type is invalid. I don't know what the problem is here. Because all I did was add this, and as it doesn't like the link, maybe I can't use next-link. I added next-link, and that's when the problems arrived. So there's no reason for this to be behaving like this. We have currently open tickets. All I did was add in this link. Button primary new ticket. There's nothing else. Is that and nothing else? Tickets. Create. Well, we know going to this page, tickets-create, is not a problem. This goes there, no problem. So if I go back to dashboard, we're good. It's going to the tickets that's blowing up. So it's something about my tickets page. I mean, that's where I'm at. My page here is tripping up. Application So it has something to do with my link. It doesn't like next link. It has to be this because there's no, I mean, I've done button primary before. We've done link before. And it might, I wonder if it has something to do. Let's go see where I did other links. Maybe I did something different. Mm-hmm. Oh, is that what the problem is? More declaration issues. Formatting my declarations. Some of them have this and some of them do not. And this one apparently does not. All right, let's try that. In the meantime, we can go over here to my database. And then I'm sure over here is probably like what? Authentication. Something. I'm guessing he's going to be over here in authentication. Maybe not. We'll see. It might even actually be under the table editor. So go here. And NextJS feedback. Refresh data. We'll see. We're on here, so let's go ahead and npm run start. And we will take myself back to the home page. And we should be fully running. Tickets. Okay, we're back. And we're back. There's my new ticket button. And we take it back to there. We'll go back to tickets. So yeah, new ticket. We have to make sure that we, oh, we already added the button. So we finished that. So we can go npm or amg website work start. That's the task. That's the ticket. Let's start ticket. We need to start work on AMG reverse engineering add ticket. That's pretty high priority. So I really want to do that. Even though I have a medium, high, and a low, even though I actually set that wrong. It's the same as this one, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so we got it. Everything's working. Let's go on and finish up this class, or finish up at least this next bit, see where we're at.
Around the database. So right now we don't have any kind of security rules about who gets access to the data, who can read it, who can write new data, etc. So technically any person, authenticated or not, can do everything. But we can restrict that in Supabase using something called policies. And policies are basically just a set of rules to dictate who can do what. For example, I want to make it so that only logged in users can read data from the database. So I'd make a policy which outlines that condition. Also, I'd want to make it so that users can only delete their own tickets. So I could make a policy which outlines that condition as well. So let's try making a few of them. So the first thing that we need to do then is enable RLS. And RLS stands for row level security, meaning that we can lock down our data on a row by row basis. So click over here to enable it, and then here, and then confirm. And now RLS is enabled, all of our data is locked down by default, meaning that if we go over here and try to fetch the tickets, it's not going to allow us because Supabase has locked that data. Even though we're authenticated, it's not allowing us read access. And it won't allow us write access either. So if you try to create a new ticket, it's not going to work. So what we need to do is now open up our data to certain user groups or certain conditions. So we can do that using policies. So we create a new policy. You can use the template or create one from scratch, which I'm going to do. We give this policy a name. I want to enable read access to all authenticated users. Then we're going to go for select, which means read access because we're selecting from the database table. Then we can choose the role that we want to target. So I'm targeting authenticated users.
He's getting pretty far ahead of me. I can't keep up. I'm just finding the buttons. I'm still like, oh, he must have clicked on something. Oh, he must have clicked on something. All authenticated users. And then we're going to go, I got to go back a notch. And the interface is slightly different. So adding new policy to public.tickets. Things, create a new row level security policy. Discard. All right, let's go back to my table here. All right, so we're here. I'm going to add RLS ticket. Row level security is enabled for this table, but no policies are set. Select queries or return empty array results. So I have to create a policy. It's going to take me here, public.ticket. So it's different. I'll show you what he's got going. So obviously, whatever they've done, they've rebuilt the website slightly. So this is what it looks like to him, and this is what it looks like to me. This is why it's throwing me off just a tad bit, but we are going to have similar thing here. So it has public.tickets up here, but he has it listed up here because by default it put that in, put it in here, but it actually created a row. So theoretically I could add probably I could add to a different table from this page. So it's taking me to a universal page rather than a location that's only accessible for this table. And then he's doing a select.
For select, which means read access because we're selecting from the database table. Then we can choose the role that we want to target. So I'm targeting authenticated users, and then we have an expression here which evaluates the true or false. Now we don't really need an expression, we can just say true because I want all authenticated users to have read access. And if this is true, then it allows them. So let's review that now and then see.
Use options above to edit. So this actually doesn't, this is actually not editable here. See on his, he kind of, it's editable. So if I go back a notch, which I really can't from this screen, but it will go back and it says you only edit that security. Use options above to edit, and this will rewrite this based on what you select here, I guess. So take policy. Okay. Provide a SQL expression for the using statement. I don't know. Why do I put it in there? Policy. Enable read to all authenticated users on public tickets as permissive. For select to authenticated using what? What do I mean, I know. He just says true, but that's true for the whole thing. I don't know. Oh, maybe select? Maybe I'm supposed to put one of these in here. So just policies. New role level security policy enabled, authenticated. I don't know what I'm supposed to put in here. I mean, please provide a SQL expression for the using statement. All right, well, let's just do this. True. We'll do what he did. We'll just throw in true. I don't think it's going to work because that doesn't seem like a thing. Oh, I guess it is true. So when you put in true, the using is true. So it built this piece around what he put in is true. So on this one, I think what it is, so when he put in true here, it says using expression, but what this code is doing, it shows you the whole expression. So he's, you can put in your own, like it's like an add-on. It's going to give you that plus. Interesting. Okay.
Read access. And if this is true, then it allows them. So let's review that now and then save the policy. And once we've done that, we can go back to the website and refresh. And okay, it's asking me to log in. Let me do that. Yoshi at net.
Yeah, his ticket burned out.
Says 1, 2, 3, 4. But once I log in and view the tickets, now we have read access.
So we can get back to all of it.
All right. So I want to make a new policy to allow insert access as well, because at the minute, even though we can see these tickets, we won't be able to make a new one. So let's allow that, make a new policy from scratch. This time it's insert, and I will say here, enable all authenticated users to create new tickets.
So we're going to do another one. We'll just place allow authenticated users to create add tickets. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? So we're going to do insert. See what it says.
So insert, choose authenticated, and then again.
Oh, we got to put in one of these guys, authenticated.
Just true.
So he's just saying it's just true again. Because these are basic, right? You're doing a read, you're doing a write, you're doing a change, doing a delete. I wish you could do more than one, but basically the policies apparently are for each. But we're going to do a delete, but it's going to be limited to those that have already created it. So there might be an extra step on there.
So let's go down here and review, and then save the policy. Let's test this out. I'm going to go to new ticket, put anything in here for now, medium, add the ticket, and it should work. Let's see. Yep, there it is. I think that's the one, is it? Let's try to delete this. And if we scroll down, we can see it's not allowed us to delete it, because we've not allowed anyone the ability to delete tickets. We've just allowed authenticated users to insert or select tickets. Now, we want them to be able to delete tickets, but not anyone. For example, if you had an account and created
So I have a delete ticket, but it won't work.
Be able to delete that ticket, or I would want to make it so that I couldn't delete that ticket, only you could. So whereas before, if we go back to these and edit, this was just a straight true. Now we have to do some kind of...
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and try to do one that is a delete permissions. So we're going to go back over here, which I have too many things going at once. We'll just say tickets, create policy, and this time we're going to do a delete, and we're going to go same thing. We're going to have authenticated. Oh wait, is he just changing it?
Of expression to say, look, does the user email in the ticket match the user email of the person who's logged in? If it does, then yeah, true. We allow those people to delete their own tickets, but if not, then we don't. So we need to create a new policy to do that. So let's start from scratch, and then we'll come up with a title. So allow delete for authors of their own tickets. You can probably come up with a better title. Delete, and then we're targeting authenticated users. And all of our policies are only targeting authenticated users, because if you think about it, we're not allowing anyone who's not authenticated to do anything. All they can see is the login or sign up screen. So, authenticated, and then what I'm going to do is just paste in this expression right here, which is an SQL.
Provide a SQL conditional expression that returns a Boolean. So let's see what he wrote. He's basically going, this guy, auth.jwt. Now this is not a SQL expression I've ever seen before. So I don't know what JWT stands for, but this is the user who's authenticated, and we're grabbing his email, formatted as text, and comparing it to user email.
Conditional expression. So basically, this auth object is authentication information that comes to Supabase on every request. So remember how we passed those cookies into the Supabase client functions? Well, when we send requests to Supabase using that Supabase instance, then we have access to the authentication cookie and the JWT. So it's getting access to that right here, and we're checking the email property, which is text, and we're saying, does that equal to the user email property of the thing that they're trying to delete, the row? Okay, so this should only allow users now to delete tickets where the email of the person who is logged in is equal to the user email property that we have on each ticket. So let's save this, review and save, and then hopefully this will still work. I'm going to refresh. Remember, a minute ago we couldn't delete this even though it was our own ticket. I'm going to try to delete this and scroll down. Yeah, that's worked. Let's try one more time. Create a new ticket. We'll call this blah, whatever, and then low priority, add the ticket down here, blah, and then delete the ticket. Yep, it's gone. Awesome.
Okay, so whatever I had before wasn't fully accessing, but I was able to
Then,
delete
so
that
in this
ticket.
chapter, I want to talk
And
about
I obviously
one of the
can't delete
most
these because they don't even have
features
delete
of
buttons.
NextJS 13, and one that's still in alpha, and that is server actions. Now, server actions are very much still.
Okay, so this next thing is getting into something a little bit more. I don't even know if these were in alpha at the time. Intro to server components using app router. This is NextJS 13 he's doing. So NextJS 14, I don't know if these are still alpha. I'm not one to know that. I'd have to look it up. But ultimately, this is the end of the training. So these last few items, we're doing some extra, slightly more advanced items that might not be as common yet. As of the time of this thing, I don't know, maybe more common eventually. But so we're going to go ahead and try to see where we can get here in the next I don't know, 40 minutes, and hopefully I get close to done. If not, we'll finish tomorrow morning. Let's see what the next thing is. I almost have this done. So really, I think I started doing my programming streaming a week ago last Thursday. So we're going on 2 weeks to finish this, a week and a half. But yeah, if I finish today or tomorrow, it took about a week and a half to get all the way through this, considering I've got lots of other stuff going on while I'm, unemployed, trying to get many types of streams done and many types of work done. And I think we got through this pretty quick. So it's not a terribly long thing. A few hours a day has allowed for me to get a pretty good grasp of how Next.js works, get a little bit more comfortable with how it lays out, and hopefully be able to start doing some actual work with it. Maybe even get a job that utilizes it.
The experimental stage, which means that the implementation of server actions might change over time, and they might be slightly different to how I'm using them now. So that's the reason I didn't use them to build the application we've been working on in this course, but I do want to now take a look at them and see how they could be used in an application like we've just made, because I really like the look of them. So then, the motivation behind server actions is to reduce the amount of client-side JavaScript
using app router. Trying to see where server actions, data fetching. And then he's got server actions. Okay, so no. Server actions are in alpha feature in Next.js, built on top of React actions. They enable server-side mutations, reducing client-side JavaScript, and progressively enhanced forms. They can be defined inside server components and are called from the client component. Keep in mind, no longer says alpha. Server actions are asynchronous functions that are executed on the server. They can be used in server client components to handle form submissions and data mutations in NextJS applications. So yeah, they're no longer stating alpha, so they are actually available. Learn more on form mutations and server actions in YouTube. It's 10 minutes. So they actually have a video specifically how to use it. But let's see what he has to say on his.
Running in the browser and to progressively enhance your websites. And they're basically just functions that run on the server, which we can call, for example, in reaction to a form being submitted. And we can use or call server actions from either server components or client components. So inside server components, the way we define a server action is just by making a function and then saying at the top of that function, use server. So that says to Next that this function should only run on the server. And you might be thinking, well, what's the point of making a server action inside a server component? Because server components already run on the server anyway, right? And that's true, but think about it. These server actions are running only in reaction to something like a form being submitted. And normally, if we have a form being submitted, then we'd have to react to that on submit event in some kind of submit handler function in the component itself, which runs in the clients. And therefore, we'd have to use a client component, not a server component. But by using a server action to handle the form submission, we're not handling it in the browser anymore, we're calling a function on the server instead. So it means that we don't have to necessarily have a client component to run this code in response to the form being submitted. And it also means that even in the client component, we don't need to ship as much JavaScript to the browser to handle a lot of the interaction, because we're handling the submission in a function running on the server. So this is how we declare a server action inside a server component. But if you want to call a server action from a client component, you need to do this a bit different inside its own file.
Okay, so I assume we're going to do a couple of examples of this, but ultimately it allows you to create components that are individually server or client, right? So you got a use server component here built into your server. Now you could have this, basically I guess the premise is that you would reference these server objects from client and be able to run server tasks or server code on the client code on the server instead of on the client, thus allowing you to, save some overhead basically. But if you're doing it on the client side, you can also do use server, create these functions, and that function would run too. So again, it's all here in the documentation if you want to try it out, assuming we don't actually do something here.
This time. And at the top of that file, you need to write use server to make sure React knows that any functions inside this file should only run on the server. So we make and export our server action function, and then we can just import that from a client component and use it as normal. And you can actually define your server actions this way for server components as well if you prefer. You don't have to make them directly inside the server component. And also inside this file, you could make and export several different server actions. You're not limited to just exporting a single one in here. So then, that's a basic introduction to server actions. Now let's try making a very simple one to begin with inside our project. Now before we start writing a server action, because they're still very much in the experimental phase, we have to opt into using them inside our NextJS project. It doesn't come out of the box. We have to tell Next that we want to use this experimental feature. So to do that, open up your next config file. Inside this
so I'm not completely sure if this next step is true. He's saying that we have to go into the next config, and that we need to tell it that we want to use these, which are experimental. But here's the deal: they're not marked as experimental anymore. So I don't know if you have to do that. I'm going to put it in there and just see what happens.
Config object, we have an experimental property, and that's an object, and then the property that we want to define here, the feature that we want to use is server actions, and we set that to be true, and that tells NextJS that look, we do want to use server actions inside this project, so now we can use them. Now we're going to use them inside our create form. So let's go to the dashboard. Let's open up
let's see, we're on 39. I look like experimental. Experimental? Do I need to put a comma? I probably have to put a comma, huh? Yep. Yeah, that's all I needed. I was checking to see if I knew how to spell. And it's very possible at times I do not. Cruising right along, though, as we continue to move towards the end of this thing. We are into the final steps of the NextJS Masterclass by Ned Ninja. Check it out, man. He does a pretty good job with it. Just know that some of it's kind of old. And if you want, hey, you can always reference my streams if you want to get an idea of how to do it. Do what he does in those areas using not using helpers.
Tickets. There we go. So I'm inside the create form component right here, and I want to make a server action to eventually handle the submission of this form and add new data to the database. Now we're going to handle the database side of things in the next lesson, but for now I just want to get started by making a very simple server action which we can run when the form gets submitted. So first off, this component is currently a client's component, so we're going to have to make our server action in a new file. Now you can make that file any way you want in this project, but what I would probably do is make an actions file inside each route segment or resource section that needs them. So for example, in this case, I'd probably make an actions file inside the root of the tickets folder for the tickets results. And then any actions that were needed for the ticket section of the site, I would make in that file. Okay,
so the way you implement or put some of these, you need an actions file, an actions.js. So here we are in tickets. He's creating a file in tickets. Oh gosh dang it, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Action.js. But watch this. I just went ahead and did what he asked on this next.config, but the auth stuff I was just doing, all the auth work I've been doing is all built right here. And under login, we have an actions.js. It's already doing just that. Use server. It's not doing all of those individual items. We got use server. We don't have use server within the components themselves, but it is doing an actions file. So it's doing something similar. I don't even know if I need this revalidation path, but I think that's old. But ultimately, yep, there you go. See, actions file's already in there. If you're going to do something like this for every page, you would have an actions file on every folder, every app directory folder.
So then, make that file, and remember to write use server at the top of the file so Next knows that any functions we export from this file need to be run only on the server. So now inside here we can export an async function which we want to call when the form gets submitted. And I'm going to call this function add ticket. And all I want to do inside this function for now is log something to the console, just to make sure it works. And remember, this runs on the server, so we won't see that in the browser console, but we will see it in the terminal when the function gets run. Okay? So, now let's hook this action up to the form so that it fires when we submit the form. And to do that, we can first of all get rid of the onSubmit handler, because we no longer want to handle the form submit. In the client using that function, and instead.
So this takes it one step farther, and we basically wipe out our submit because you're no longer doing it on the client side. You're going to be doing it on the server side, and you'll be calling functions that are going to handle this at some point. So essentially, he's going with everything that's tickets here. Let's see what he's doing.
Now let's hook this action up to the form so that it fires when we submit the form. And to do that, we can first.
So we're getting rid of this return handle submit here.
Of all, get rid of the onSubmit handler because we no longer want to handle the form submission in the client using that function, and instead we add the action prop to the form and we set that equal to whatever server action we want to run when this form gets submitted. Now in our case, that's the add ticket function. So let's put that in there and make sure we import it as well at the top of the file, otherwise this is not going to work. And by the way, this whole action thing on forms is nothing new. It was around in HTML way before React and Next. And normally in an HTML form we'd pass a URL to this action, and when the form was submitted, it would send a post request to that URL on the server. It's just that React and NextJS are now leveraging this and changing the behavior so that instead of sending a post request to a URL, we're now calling a function to run on the server. Anyway, that's the action created and hooked up. Now let's try this out. Okay, so I'm on the create page over here, and I've got the terminal over here on the left so we can see that log.
All right, so I gotta first do my thing here. So he's got create form under ticket. And I have to add action, add ticket. Oh, add ticket. Oh, it's the one I just did. I think it would have imported automatically if I actually went down here and started typing add ticket and then just clicked on it. And it puts it up there for you. So that gets it imported and gets it set up. So remember to do that. If you're putting something in new and it's giving you a list, click it and it'll import it for you so you don't have to go do it later. And I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that. I don't know if I like the click. It'd be nice if there was like, I could hit tab maybe. Let's see. I don't know, I have to get rid of this first to see if that would work. Let's see if that works. Because there's got to be a way you can do it without using your mouse. Yeah, that does it. So just tab into it and it'll import it for you. So that's easier. So now I think we have to go, if I want to continue to do this, I'm going to have to stop with my build because it's not going to continue working. So we're going to go npm run dev because I can do a little bit more dynamically. And I can close this one because that's not going to do anything right now. But we do know that the builds have been working, so as long as this stuff's working, we should be good to go. It's thinking about loading. Okay, so we can go to view tickets. Maybe. Okay, go to new ticket. It's going to take me here. We go blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Now, since this is now a server action, the add ticket action is, we shouldn't get anything, but it should show it up down here. Well, it should, but it didn't. Got a lot of stuff going on here, but we did not get anything to go
to the console, because remember in the action we logged this message to the console. So let's.
Oh, maybe I should have got it in the console. Console. Rebuilding, building. Let's go back to all right, let's go back to tickets. We'll say new ticket, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and add ticket. Okay, so I don't know what's happening. It doesn't appear to be doing what I think it's supposed to be doing. It's doing something. It's doing a lot of stuff. It's logging a lot of junk here. But what I'm not seeing is...
Look down here, and I'm just going to type any old rubbish. This is not going to get added because we're now no longer handling this in the browser. Remember, we're handling it in the add ticket function, and we don't do any database logic.
Did I save everything? I may not have saved everything. Let's go back to new ticket. It's taking a bit to rebuild. Let's try this again. Okay, so I'm getting things built. In some cases, getting more than I want. So that's not, it is building my tickets. It's not supposed to be building my tickets. Stop building these crap tickets. I have a bunch of crap tickets. It's not, it didn't skip. It's supposed to skip. Okay. Okay, so I don't need to do this. It's complaining about my NextJS thing. I bet you that's no longer, that is not a thing I have to do anymore, I bet. It doesn't like these. Experimental.server actions. It's interesting. How does he even know that those exist? I mean, when they exist. But let's see. I bet you I don't need this anymore. Okay. Let's go back to my... Shouldn't have anything left to save. New ticket. We'll go try it again. And we'll find out where we at, man. Nope, we're getting nonsense tickets. We're still getting tickets. Why are we getting tickets still? And how is it building the tickets? I'm not even going through there. Because I'm using add ticket, and add ticket doesn't have any code in it. How's it doing that? I'm not handling my on click. So what's the problem here? How is it adding stuff? Without an actual add step? Because this add tickets is sitting over here in my add ticket.actions folder. And all it does is console.say what it's supposed to do. And it's not even going here. I mean, reality is we're not even going here. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna Control C this puppy. I don't know. Try to see if I can get this to go. Something is like it's not acknowledging the change I just did. So we're going to go, and then we're going to go ahead and close and run this again. I will say this though, things are slower with npm run dev versus start now that I'm seeing it actually do it. New ticket. Because really what this should be doing is nothing. Should be doing nothing. Should just be giving me a log message is all I should be getting here. Ah, here we go. See, I had to rebuild. This is when add ticket should run. That's all it did. So yeah, there we go. It's just it just needed me to
right here.
pay attention.
So let's try adding, in fact, whatever, add the ticket, and yeah, well, let's have a look.
So if things don't appear to be working as they should be, you've got all the code in place, you're not seeing any response to your changes, your console.logs that you just put in aren't working, just stop your run and run it again. Let it rebuild completely. Even run dev doesn't always seem to refresh, doesn't always get the code all across. Even though sometimes it says something like, had to do a full build and whatever, it doesn't always work. So keep that in mind. Sometimes just rebuilding will get things working again. Stopping it, make sure everything's saved, and then start it again. Hopefully everything's saved before you had to go that far, but do that one first.
Look around here. Does it say anything? There it is. Hello from the server action. So that, my friends, has all worked. We have now hooked up our form to a server action, and let's get rid of that. Inside the server action, we're logging this to the console, and we can see that down in the terminal. So now submitting the form via this function, which can be handled on the server now instead of in the browser. So in the next lesson, what we're going to do is add logic to this action to communicate with the database.
So we're going to add stuff here now and get it so it actually does the update. But now we're going to do it from the server.
Right, so we have made
Interestingly enough, for me, server and client mean nothing, right? I mean, if you really think about it, who's the server? Well, my server is the server, and who's the client? Well, my website browser is the client. So we've got like zero lag, zero different distance between server and client. For me, it's not going to have an effect. But once you have all your stuff on the server, your host is the server, and the client is whoever's running their browser. So, and if it's all built locally, your database is theoretically also on your server, and therefore your server stuff is all taking place in this nice confines of your server, and client takes place wherever. So the less you send out into the wherever, the faster things run because, travel time. Using Supabase is basically, I'm not sure how much. Supabase is, you're on someone else's server, right? Unless you host your website on the same servers or same location as the database, you're basically taking a step out, right? So you got client, talks to your server, talks to the database. If the database is over here and the server's right here and the client's out here, you don't want to be talking straight to this database, which is sometimes what a database will do, or a client will do. They'll talk, they'll do their thing, and it's all on the client, and the only time they call anything is to the database, but that means all your code is on one side, and it's riskier, and you got client code that's got it. The server's going to host everything regardless. So it's always going to be pushing something to the client, and then that client's got to run whatever it runs to get back to the database. The idea is that you're taking out kind of a middleman. Just give it what they want to see and handle all the rest of the stuff here. So you're only doing one jump. And hopefully, if you're doing it efficiently, you're doing minimal jumps from your server to the database. And then you're just feeding data out. So maybe sometimes you might pull a bunch of data over here to your server. And then the server has all the data. It does what it has to do. And that's where some of the static actions come in. It only does what it has to, connecting to the database only when needed.
But it doesn't really do much at the moment, does it? So in this lesson, we're going to extract all of the form data and then add it to the database table as a new ticket. So how do we then access all of the form data inside a server action? Well, we automatically get access to a form data argument right here, which contains all of the data from the form fields that we just submitted. But in order for this to work, we need to add a name property to each of the input fields. And then those values get automatically added to the form data.
All right, so yeah, we got to go in here and add some information. So we're going to go to the create form, and now we're passing this form. Oops, where is it? This one. Where'd it go? I thought it was create form. Oh, it is. Okay, so we're going to go here, and then you give things a title, so that you can
object inside the action. So let's
reference
do that
it.
First of all. So we've got the name equals title for this one, and then down here we want the name to equal the body, and these values right here, these match up to the property names inside our different ticket objects. So we have title, body, and we have priority. So let's come down here and add a name onto this as well, which is equal to priority. And that's all we need. They're the only three different inputs that we have right here. Okay, so now we can access all those values from the action that we created. So let's do that. And the way we can...
All right, what's the object here? The select object? Must be the select object. Okay, now we're going to go back over to my actions form. And of course he's going to start with
Do it is by saying
const.
ticket is equal to object dot from entries. And then in that method we pass the form data object that we get as an argument in the server action. And what this does for us is create an object where the property names are the names of the form fields that we just made, so title, body and priority, and the values of those properties are the values inside those form fields. So now we have that ticket object, but we still need to add on the user email property, and we can get that from the currently signed in user using the Supabase session. Now this time we're inside a server action, and previously with Supabase we've seen 3 different functions that we can use to connect to Supabase depending on where we're trying to do it from. So from client
So it's not true.
server components, and also from route handlers, and from middleware as well actually. Now there is another place that we can access Supabase from, and that is inside server actions. So we have to use a function called create server action client to connect to Supabase from here. And again, as an
So this has been very simplified for me. I actually updated and created these objects to create client, both a server and a client version. So when you go Supabase equals create client, you notice that I've been selecting one. In this case, we're doing server, so I create the one for server. The auth helpers that he uses actually have all these weird long names: create server action client, create server client, create server browser client. You don't really need all that. You're just creating a client to connect to, and then you should be able to do whatever else you need to.
argument, because this is running on the server, we need to pass in an object with the cookies. So also make sure you import the cookies from next/headers.
Don't believe I'm going to need to do what he's doing here.
And now we have this Supabase instance. So we can go ahead and get the current session from that, and then we can get the currently logged in user from that as well, and their email address, so we can add it to the ticket before we send it to Supabase.
So really all he's doing is getting the user here.
And from that, the session as well. So now we have the session. The next thing we want to do is insert the data. So insert the data, like so. And we will say const error, if there is one. We'll set that equal to await Supabase. And then we say dot from to do something from a particular table. In our case, the tickets table. And what we would like to do is insert a new row into that. So let's pass through an object. I'm going to spread the ticket properties because we have the ticket up here. So that's the title, the body, and the priority. And then also we need the user email, which we can get from the session. So we can say user underscore email is the session.user.email. Alright, so now we're inputting the new ticket. Next, what I'd like to do is I would like to redirect the user back to the ticket page. Now, we're not going to use the client-side router like we have done over here inside the create form. We say router.refresh to refresh the data in the background and then push them to the tickets page. We're not doing that because this is in the client. This is a client-side router. Over here, we have to use something different. We can use a redirect function,
I think it's actually
which we can use on a server. Also, I
dot
want to use a
user
function called
dot email.
revalidate path, and that basically looks at a specific path and runs the fetch inside that path to refetch the data in the background. So we're going to revalidate the path first, and then go to that page. So we revalidate tickets, and then we can redirect, which is next/navigation, and that's to the tickets page as well. So /tickets. So we have to import revalidate path, next/cache, and redirect from next/navigation. Alright, so that's pretty much it as far as this is concerned. But now what I'd like to do is go over here and clean up this component a little bit, because we're using a lot of stuff in here now, like the handle submit function, that we don't really need to use anymore. So we don't need any of this handle submit function anymore, because we're not handling the submission on the client anymore. Also, we don't need the title, body, or the priority, because we're passing those.
Okay, so he's taking out a lot of use state stuff now. We're going to be going on to, we're just cleaning up, getting rid of junk we no longer need, because we're simplifying, or hopefully getting out of this mess of stuff we don't have anymore. So we're getting rid of handle submit, which is no longer in play. And we're also getting rid of all these constant declarations of priority and title.
We're straight through into the server action. We don't need this router either. We'll leave is loading just for now, but we'll get rid of use router because we don't need that. And then down here, have we got anything else? I don't think so. So now we can try this out. And actually before we do, I've just noticed we need to get rid of one more thing, and that's the value properties on these inputs, because we're setting the value equal to some states, which we know.
Oh, right. So we're not passing these items in, so we got to get rid of these values. Don't need those. We're not actually setting those objects because they don't exist anymore. We just deleted them. So let's see. It's 1, 2, 3. Here we go. So I've got my website consta saving, auto saving. So it's, you see a lot of stuff happening over here. It's because it's noticing that I'm making changes and it's saving it, which is fine, assuming we get all this thing working and we don't have any syntax errors. It's going to keep showing me problems until I actually do make sure everything's fixed. You can see it, my form here is in red, so it's complaining about something. Oh, see, it's dot. From tickets, insert, blah, 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 ticket. Ticket is coming from here, and that's not supposed to be an equal sign. Hey, look, things popped up correctly now. It's like, oh, okay. Now I understand what you're trying to say. So in theory, things are working now. I do kind of like this better, this live updating, because I can kind of see when things are flawed here right away. I don't even have to go over here and refresh. I don't have to hit a button. I don't have to hit save. It's just saving and updating, and I'm going, oh, okay. So when you're doing this locally, it works okay. If you're doing it over a network or some other goofy thing, you might not want to do that. I don't know. I don't know if you can even, I don't know, maybe you're doing a local server type thing. But it works good for local, on your local server. Local network server. Local being like in your company. I don't know. Maybe it's problematic. You certainly don't want to do it against the live server. Woo, boy, we got some rain coming down out there. All right. Well, I guess nothing's complaining. Not getting any errors anymore.
No longer have, and also the unchanged properties.
Oh.
Get rid of those as well.
Apparently, we're getting rid of the unchanged properties too. So, because we don't need to set title anymore, because we got rid of everything that's going to be setting anything, is that set title's gone. So there's not really anything to set. This is considerably simplified, right?
Because we're not updating any local state anymore. So get rid of those, and finally those. Alright, sorted. So now we can save this and try it out. Now before we try this, I will just say one thing. When you're running the application in dev mode at the minute, I've noticed a few issues when using Supabase when it comes to the policies and whatnot. So a lot of the time when I'm in dev mode, I disable RLS, which you can see right here, and then you can enable it later on. Or you can build the application again and run npm start to run the built application, and then we don't have problems with it. So anyway,
okay, I don't know if this is true to the case. We're going to find out, I guess, as we do it. If you're having issues with your row level security on a dev build, you might want to disable your policies while testing, while doing dev building. So keep an eye on that. If it's an issue while you're doing it, I don't know if it will be for me. If it is, I will disable it myself in just a moment. So this is all about add tickets. So let's just, I'm going to go back. only because I want to actually navigate here. You know, make sure that everything comes in. We're all good. New ticket. We're going to see what happens right now. Okay, this test a different way to add ticket. Adding direct from server component. And wow, that's medium priority. Gotta get that done. All right, so we got to blow up Supabase.from. Supabase auth.from is not an auth function, so I may have. I wasn't sure if I was doing that syntactically. Syntactically, I wasn't sure if I was on target here. I feel like something's different what I did here. Await Supabase, create client. I do have my create client here. Auth, tickets, insert. Doesn't like something. Supabase.auth.from tickets. So let's go ahead and go see where I have supabase.auth.from. Mostly it's just selects, but I should have it should be the same basic form. So we're going to go ahead and get my ticket list. Should probably be doing the same thing. Supabase. What am I missing here? We've got Supabase.create client. Maybe it's just this data error thing I'm going wrong. From.select. I'm not really getting data back, so I shouldn't need that. But .from.select. It said doesn't exist, which is weird. Holy moly! That is some serious rain. Our home, we're about to float away.
Yeah, it's hailing too.
That is some crazy come down snow or rain there. Sounds like it's trying to catch up, even though it was never behind. We've been getting plenty of rain. Sheesh. Oh yeah, we got crazy. It's coming complete with hail and a nice layer of white ice cubes all over the floor, ground. Pretty cool. All right, back to task. Let's see if we can figure this out. Supabase. How come it says .from doesn't exist? We got create client. They didn't like. They did not like. Why did it not like? That was weird. Got some weird clicking sound back there. All right, so let's go ahead and disable my auth policies for now. Just for now, disable RLS just for the moment. And then we will re-enable those shortly, just to see if that's causing my problem. I don't know if it is, but it might. Something about, he says, running things in dev can be problematic, so we'll see. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Here we go again. Supabase.auth.from is not a function. All right, let's go see what I'm missing here. Oh, I'm looking at his. Again, things are different. So I'm kind of like, testing my code versus his code, and it's all a little bit questiony. It's definitely easier here. Let's go see what his actions is. Wait, where did his actions go? Oh, there it is. Did I put actions under create? Is it not supposed to be under create, or did he move his? Because his actions is under tickets, which is questionable. Why? Why would his actions be under there? I don't think the location of that matters, but let's see what's going on here. Await Supabase dot from. In true, I'm not getting a session, but I don't think I need to. I don't think that's my problem here. But I know Supabase dot from exists. I've done it in other places. Now, no. If you look at my code, I'm gonna put my, when I'm done with this, I will post it up. But really, all you're gonna get from my code is the final version. So all these initial lessons that I've gone through are not gonna be included. I'm not creating a bunch of different versions like he is. Like he's got all the different lessons. He basically creates a branch for every lesson. I am not doing that because I'm not the one teaching this. If you want to learn it, go take the NextJS Masterclass. It's like $9. Doesn't cost nothing to do it. $10 a month if you want to do multiple classes. So it's really cheap. So, you know, splurge on it if you want to get his help on doing this. But again, this is using the helpers.projects, project files. I do need to figure out why my stuff is not working though. He's got a couple of different things on his actions.js I do not have imported. So it could be that I'm missing something. Revalidate path. My actions file has 3. I do not have his cookies. I don't really think I need cookies. I tell you, I haven't had to put them in yet. So I don't think that's the thing. I think that's part of the helpers.js. Revalidation path I do have, and redirect I do have. I don't know why it's complaining about my supabase.auth.from. Supabase.auth.from. I don't think it's a quotes thing. Mine is capital, that much I do know. Ticket is coming from form data, which we are good with there. How does it say dot from? So we got dot ticket, comma, user data. Oh, I wonder if that's a problem. Oh, that's his. I don't have that. Data.user email. Oh, .user.email. Okay, what's the problem here, man? How is this dot from? Am I syntactically, is it supposed to be capital? No. Oh, it's not auth. Man, I did it again. I'm always something. Man, how come you can stare at something so how come I don't know about anybody else. How can you stare at something for so long and then just not see it and then bam, slaps you in the face? Okay. Final try? Yes, I think it might be. Hey, look at that. We have maybe added a ticket. What the heck? Where's it at? It's sort of kind of in a way, sort of kind of. It's not actually here. I added a ticket. But did it actually add the ticket? it did not add a ticket. Let's try it again. Hello. Do this work? It's not exactly. Okay, we're not functioning anymore, troops. We're doing something. It's acting like it's doing something, but it's not doing something because the database is not seeing my new toy, my new piece of information. Getting nowhere. Nope. And therefore, why? I've disconnected RLS. We are in here. It's not complaining about the work. Why is it not adding? Okay, let's do this. Console.log data. Console.log data.user.email. And we're also going to do console.log ticket. I want to see what all these things have in them. Oh, there's user, lots of stuff. Email. Email is this. Ticket is body priority. Title body priority. Oh, is it because they're not labeled the same? He did say they had to be titled. No, title body priority. Is it because priority is the wrong case? Body and title are okay, it looks like, but body, title, and priority. Priority? Where's it at? Name. There it is. Priority. I bet you it's complaining because I have a bad field. Let's see if that does it. Case sensitivity! The bane of my existence. Hello? 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 Can't spell hello either. I am tired of case sensitivity. Okay, look, I'm tired of case sensitivity. We are now functioning because from now on, I'm never looking at anything except case sensitivity. From now on, everything's got to be case checked. Ugh, it's going to beat it into my head that this whole thing is everything is case sensitive. Blah!
Let's try this out. Let's try the action out that we just created. So new ticket, and we'll say make a new action for me. And then whatever in here, and this is going to be a high priority, add the ticket, and then hopefully we'll see that down here. Yep, make a new action for me. Let's delete it because we don't need it. Awesome.
All right, let's get rid of some of these nonsensicals.
A server action to completely handle the submission of our form. Okay then, so now we're handling our form submission in a server action, and that means that all the logic and state we had in the form component could be stripped right back. Now the only bit of state we have left is for the is pending state, which is meant to track when the ticket is being added and update the button depending on that to say loading. But actually, since we're now handling the form on the server, there's nothing telling this bit of state to update, so it's quite redundant. So I'm going to delete that bit of state right now.
So he's going to change a little bit more. We're going to do form status now, which is also going to be moving stuff away. Like we're getting rid of this use state. Don't need to use state here again. So he's actually getting away from the use state stuff because of the server stuff, allowing him to do that.
Also, I'll delete the useState import at the top of the file. And actually, I'm going to delete this entire button at the bottom of the form because we need to rethink how we do this. How do we make a button which we can update when the form is being submitted to show some kind of loading message? Well, there's actually a hook that we can use called use form status. And this is an experimental hook that React provides to us to track the status of a form submission. And it provides us with a pending state to tell us when a form is being submitted without us having to manually track that. Now, it does require the component it's used in to be a client's component. However, we can actually make a new component for the button to a form and use the hook in that. And that way, the button component can be a client component and the form component could therefore be a server component. And it also makes the button component reusable as well because it can just be dropped into any form you want and it would work. So then, let's make this button component inside the components folder. Alright then, so let's go to the components
So we're going to create a button
file,
component.
and we'll call this submit button.jsx. Inside here, I'm going to boilerplate this. Yep, submit button. Now, this needs to be a client's component, so we say use client at the top, and that's because this use form status hook needs to be run in the clients. Now, we do need to import this hook, so I'm going to paste this import in. And it's an experimental feature at the minute, so it's prefixed with this experimental word, then underscore, and then the hook. But we can use an alias to say, use it as use form status within this file. So when we're using it, we just use this.
I don't know, is it still experimental?
Instead of this
I'm wondering what's experimental at this point.
Alright, so inside this component then, we can say const something is equal to use form status. Like so. Now the something that we get back has a pending state, and this is going to be true when a form gets submitted, but to begin with it's false. So if we nested this submit button component inside this form, when we submit this form, then this right here would be true. This
Okay, so we're submit button, and then we're going to go, I'll put in a constant here. We're going to go pending equals use form status. I don't know if this is still even experimental, but I don't know how to spell, so either do they. Experimental. Use form status. Capital F, capital S. And use form status. Well, this is just this could actually be any kind of case as long as I match it, but we'll do it that way. Oh, must be right because now I'm using it correctly because it lit up. Hey, you're using this. Right. And then he's got pending, use form status. And return div. Okay, let's see where we are.
pending value, okay? So now what we can do is, instead of this div, have a button right here with a class name of btn-primary, and then this button is going to have a disabled property, and that's going to be equal to pending. So it's going to be false to begin with, so not disabled, but when we submit the form, this becomes true, and the button is disabled, okay? Inside the button, we can have two different messages depending on the state of pending. So if pending is true, then we're going to output a certain message. So we'll output a span tag, and inside that span tag, it will say submitting 2 T's, not 3, ... And then if pending is false, or rather if pending is true, so not pending, and then we'll output different span, and that's going to say submit. So when this is true and we're submitting the form, it says submitting. When it's false, and therefore this is true, then we say submit. Now I've kept these generic. I've not said add ticket or anything like that, because that way this is reusable in different forms, and it doesn't matter what form this is placed in.
So
still
the
gonna
premise
track
behind
every
this is to
update
keep this
that's
kind of
performed.
generic because this is just a submit button. So if you put it on any old form, any old place, it could just say submitting submit based on what you are doing, but you just plug it in according to your, to your needs. Theoretically, you could probably do something along the lines of provide a function value that says submitting. They all say submit, but you could say pending title or pending text. And then when the report runs, you would put in here pending text. I bet you could. I bet you could. That's my theory. I'm doing it. I'm gonna make up my own thing. I don't. Who needs any stinking rules? I don't know. So I'm gonna make it up. I'm gonna see what happens. We're gonna go pending text, and then I'm gonna take this nonsense. I'm gonna go Control C, and I'm gonna put it right here. And we'll see if I have any clue what I'm doing. Oops. What the heck? Stop it. Try to pick this up, and it wouldn't let me. Go right here. So you could drop this in anywhere, but you will need to give it the pending text if this works, if I know what I'm doing, or if I have any clue to what I think I know what I'm doing. Okay. So he's going to actually insert this button, I think, now.
If we nest it in there. So let's save this now, and then let's try nesting it over here inside the create form. So it's going to be the submit button right here. Make sure it imports at the top, like so. And that should be all we need to do now. Okay, cool. So let's try this out in a browser. Alright, so new tickets, and any old title, doesn't really matter. Any old body, low priority.
Okay, so
now we see the new button down here.
I could totally be wrong. Because where would I put this value? I don't think this is going to work. Okay, maybe I don't know how this stuff works. I kind of thought you could somehow provide a value in here, but I don't know what it would be called. Let's title it the same way I did. We'll call it pending text equals submitting. ... We'll do exactly what he says and see if it works. I don't know if this is going to work. It's not complaining technically, but we will see. Since I made this up, this is me taking a leap at how I think code should work, and it's quite possible it says, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop trying to force your will upon me, you doodlehead. So we're gonna go new ticket. Look, it's already completed. What is it? What is that nonsense? So Webpack imported module experimental React DOM is not a function. I don't know what. So it doesn't like something about my component. Is it not experimental anymore? See, that's the thing about using experimental. You got to make sure you have the same version of code installed, right? Because it has to always be experimental in terms of that code. See, it doesn't like my import here. So this submit button, experimental. All right, let's just take this out and call it use form status and see if that's a thing. Maybe it's not experimental as of this version. I'm thinking it would just be called this if it wasn't experimental, right? Ah, see, look, it loaded. All right, so we're going to try one more time. Let's see what happens. Better button text. Maybe. All right, so in theory, when this goes, this should turn to submitting. It did not. Oh well, so much for Ken trying to make it behave like I want it to behave instead of the way it wants to behave. Yeah, I kind of thought it'd be cool. I mean, why not? I mean, I would have thought you could have done It says parameter, but how do you pass this parameter? Pending text. I mean, I don't know what I would call it. I mean, if it's not pending text, what would I, if it was valid to take a value, it would have to be something. I mean, I don't know what it would be. Could I just type in submitting? I don't think, yeah, see, that doesn't like that. That's even less of a thing. Now I don't even compile. What is this object? What if I do it like this? And we call it this guy. And then we go back to my, I am experimenting because I don't know if this is possible. I feel like it should be, but it doesn't mean it will. Ah! By golly molly, I figured it out. I created my own little piece of code extra that didn't exist. There you go. So now I was able to take my button, give it a pending text that's custom. So anywhere I drop submit button, I just say pending text equals and put it in here. So I can say apples or oranges or submit ticket or submit comment, whatever, where you put the button at. Submit payment, whatever you want it to do, it can do it. And then of course you'll do whatever, you'll put whatever code you want it to do at the location at which you're submitting it. So that would be this form action, add a ticket. So if you're doing a payment or comments page as well, you can submit there too, and it'll be some, it could change to whatever you want it to be. So my way is cool, man. Yes. Yes.
Submit, and watch what happens when I click this, because it's going to be really quick. It's going to say submitting for a second, and then we get
mine is better than yours.
So
mine is better than
we
yours.
saw that very quickly submitting, and then we see the new ticket over here.
I'm always big
And
for
now we're gonna do
customization,
it.
simplification,
Awesome.
ways to be able to
Now we've stripped back
take
this
away
form component
redundancy.
quite a bit now, because we're using a combination of this submit button right here, which uses the use form status hook, and also we're using the action over here to handle the submission. It means now that we have no local state over here. So there's no real need anymore for this to be a client component. It could be a server component now, so we could get rid of used clients, and that makes it a bit more performant, right? Because it means less.
So he's saying basically right now that our form is no longer necessary to even be considered a client component. Because it's no longer, it has no more state usage. It could just simply be a used server. It could be a server component now. Now, I was unaware. I kind of always thought that, well, no, that's not true. I'm getting backwards in my head. Never mind. The difference between JS and JSX is UI bits. Server and client are not, I mean, you can have both. So never mind. So let's say server component, it's just generating the UI bits, and it'll send that back to you as needed. This theoretically should make it somewhat faster.
Less JavaScript is being shipped to the browser. So the only thing now that's a client component is this thing, and then we're handling the submission of the form on the server. So all this is a really nice way of doing things. Alright then, so currently in the action that we made, we get back.
Okay, so we only have 2 more bits left. Handling server errors and calling actions using use transition. I'm going to stop. I don't want to do anymore. I think it's enough for today. I've done quite a bit. I've gotten 2 more bits left. I will do 1 more session tomorrow, and we will be done with this. 95% complete, says the school training class thing. I'll probably have to cancel my membership on Ninjon, or not Ninjon. Ninjon, I like you, man, but that has nothing to do with this. That's Net Ninja. Ninjon is a miniatures painter guy. Net Ninja is the guy who I'm watching this course on. I will probably cancel my service only because I don't see, I kind of looked at what he's got for other options of classes. And I want to do some other stuff, but I just don't think he has anything that immediately appeals to me. I can go over, let's see if he's got, where is more stuff? Okay, so here's courses included with the purchase. So basically I can do all this stuff if I want to. Now there's a lot, but the problem is some of it's old. So you got to be careful about what you're doing. There are so many. You got Supabase, there's coding React Router 6. I don't even know if that's current or not. So here's the problem. You got to figure out if these things are current. Major new changes in React Router. I do like knowing about the React stuff because that's what I'm working on. Build websites with React and Firebase. I don't know what Firebase is, but I have seen that as an option out there. What I might do, is there a Postgres one? Let's see if there's a Postgres, because I could kind of use no Postgres, which is, I'm trying to figure out what Postgres is. That's what it is. I could do some of the stuff on just YouTube, obviously. HTML and CSS crash course. I could probably use some Tailwind / TypeScript tutorial. I could probably do TypeScript tutorial if nothing else to show me how that differs from React. There's a Tailwind one. Another tutorial. A lot of these tutorials, by the way, are available on YouTube. At least the first chunks of them. You have to decide if you like them. So if you like some of these, check it out on YouTube. See if they have the first parts, and then sometimes they'll say you can do the full course if you go pay $9 or $10. MongoDB, which I haven't done a lot of MongoDB, but I probably should look at that one. Maybe I should look at some of these other ones. React Router in depth. What is Nuxt? OpenAI. Here's one I see a lot of people saying, we need you to know GraphQL. Maybe I should look at what GraphQL is. Build a image gallery with Next 13. I'm curious what this GraphQL is. What is GraphQL? Let's look at it. I'm not gonna do it right now. I just want to see what it is. How many class? First of all, there's only 9 bits. What is GraphQL? All right, I'm gonna look at it. It's a 10-minute thing. I could probably look at that later. Okay, so query basics. Making a GraphQL server with Apollo. Schema types. Hey, same guy, Net Ninja. Sean's doing it. Hey, gang, my name's Sean, and since young age, blah, 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 blah. Resolver functions, query variables, related data. I do like that he keeps these pretty short, but he does have a few on here that are 10 minutes. But overall, this is probably 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, so about an hour and a half. Maybe a little over an hour and a half, because I was going to round on. I didn't add them all in. So roughly an hour and a half to do all of this class. That's not bad. And knowing how slow I am, that's probably more like 3 hours. But I don't know. It is interesting. Maybe I'll do GraphQL. Just keep cranking out the knowledge right into my head, man. And then I can see how it goes. Okay. That's it for me for now. I am done. I got 2 more things to do. I'll do them tomorrow, and maybe I'll pick up something else. And I have to start mapping out how I want to approach reverse engineering my website, and seeing if I can maybe make something interesting out of it. And keeping my fingers crossed in the great and grand hope that I end up with a job soon, because yikes. Till next time, take it easy.